Hey, we're with you for another week here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show, like we are every Sunday at 10 here on WFLA News. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty, joined by Ben Turek from my team. Ben has been with me for forever, a decade plus, has basically done everything in the company, and now Ben is a listing partner, but he also focuses a lot on our renovation business and homes that we represent, investment groups, funds, and then some of our own funds to buy homes cash directly from customers. So we're going to talk about that today because I talked about this a few weeks ago on the show, how the cash offer is it's attractive to a lot of customers. And I think some of these big hedge funds came into our market and they advertised the you-know-what out of it. And it became this thing where everybody wanted that. And when the market was super hot, they were offering like really good prices, and you could sell your home to one of those funds and financially do pretty well. A lot of that has changed in a challenging market. Those offers aren't as competitive anymore. And so, Ben, sellers that are out there thinking about the cash offer, it's usually not the right call for people. But when they want maximum convenience and they want something as is and they're just tired of it and they want to move quick, then it's the right option for them.
Definitely. I think that's what most people is. They want that cash offer because they want the safety, the security of the offer. But a lot of times the numbers kind of throw them off. So that's one of the things we do and what we train our team about is just understanding what's the difference, what do they really want, and then asking the clients what's the goal they want to achieve. And then we can help direct them to the best option for them.
And what their motivation level is.
Correct.
Right? Like, correct. So if someone comes in and says, you know what, I want to get the most amount of money possible, the cash offer probably isn't the right path, because you have to understand if an investor, a fund, or even me personally is bankrolling an offer on a property, if we're going to put cash into it, we know we can put it in the market. We know we can put it in a mutual fund. We know there's treasury bonds and things out there that are guaranteed safe for 5%. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do better than that because we're taking on risk. We're putting money into a house. We're renovating it. We're having to do permits. We're then having to have the carrying costs. We're going to pay commission a couple of times. We're going to pay closing costs a couple of times. So there's got to be enough meat on the bone. And people sometimes don't understand that if they want the most amount of money, an investor that's going to buy it, that's going to turn it into an investment, can't be the one that gives them the most money because they need to leave some meat on the bone so that they can profit.
It still has to be an investment, like you said. I mean, an investment by definition, we have to make money on that deal. So it's definitely something that we work on.
And even like the times where someone's like, well, someone will overpay. Like we hear this a lot too. Just find someone outside of the country that'll overpay for it. How many times you heard that? Right?
Sure, plenty of times.
Right. What, do you think Canadians don't know how to do math?
Right.
Like, do Europeans not have a calculator?
And it's explaining somebody who's going to come and buy, even if they come from overseas, they're typically more educated. If you've got $500,000, they want a deal, not pay full or top price for it.
Especially because they can see the data. They see what's going on in the market. They see that we've had a challenging market. They know that a year ago we had hurricanes. And so they're looking for an opportunity. So if you do want the cash offer, you have to understand it's kind of like, I relate it to a couple of different things. One, taking something to a pawn shop. Okay. Like if you take your items to a pawn shop, you're probably going to get less than if you sold them on eBay yourself or put them on Craigslist and then had to deal with the people showing up and all, because that's what the pawn shop's doing. The pawn shop's saying, hey, we're going to take your inventory in and then we're going to put it on our shelf, and we have overhead and we have costs, and we're going to pay you enough to where when we sell it to the next person, we can make a profit, right? Or trading in a car to dealership, right? Like now, again, there are some times where a dealership will give you full retail because they really want to sell the car that they have, or because you're buying a more expensive car. But most of the time, the dealership needs to buy your trade with enough percentage difference between what they give you and what they can sell for so they can make a profit on the trade. And it's very similar. The difference is that real estate brokers, hedge funds, all these, they're not holding the inventory to sell to you on the other side. So like they're not getting that opportunity. That's why their offer has to make profit. And if it doesn't, then the cash offer isn't the right solution for you if those numbers won't work.
Yeah, it can definitely be the right solution for a lot of people. But, what I find is the people who really want the cash offer the more are looking for the convenience. They're looking for something quick, fast. They need to move for whatever reason in a hurry. And this is it's a simple, done deal. There's no financing. We don't have to worry about dealing with appraisals or anything like that. It's It
And
is
let's talk about that too, because again, now typically even cash buyers will do an inspection, but they're not doing an inspection to need to check off boxes for insurance or for a lender. They're doing an inspection to make sure that their evaluation of the repairs needed are in line. So for example, if they see that your house has a torn up old kitchen, they factored that in. They're not going to ding you. They're looking for the things that they can't see. The things that they can't notice in that inspection to either decide, hey, look, we've got to renegotiate this, or to cancel the deal because they're not contractors. They can only do the math on what they physically can see on the property.
Right. Some of the biggest examples of that are foundation. We see that a lot. In most wholesalers or investors or anybody, they're not crawling underneath the house, but we need to know if the foundation is solid. Are there sinkholes around? Is the electric or plumbing up to today's standards? And that's really what most of the time the inspections are for, just for those wild cards that we can't see on a visual inspection.
And I think also the convenience factor, like you said, it's you inherited a property, you've got a property that got damaged, you've owned a lot of rentals and you've done well on it. You just don't really care about the extra profit. You just want to exit, or you want to sell a property with a tenant in it, and because you can't get the tenant out, or maybe the tenant's behind. We've had those, right? Where
those too,
they're just like, hey, buy this and take over my problem. So those are all reasons to, I think, again, maybe you bought another home already and you failed to sell it. And then you're willing to say, okay, I just need the cash because I don't want to make the payment. But if you're somebody whose home hasn't been listed before and you want max dollar and your home is in really impeccable condition, that's probably a traditional seller listing instead of a cash offer scenario.
I agree. And one of the things I always let people know when I'm working with the cash offers, it's as an investor, I'm not emotional when I buy a property, right? But as I'm listing the home and a buyer's going to come, traditionally, we want those emotions. We want the family to fall in love with it. We want little Johnny to pick out what room he's going to live in. But as an investor, I might be looking at that at the end results of who I'm going to sell it to. But for me to make an offer, it's just math.
It's math. And I think, again, that's one thing that does differentiate us, because there's a lot of companies on both sides. Either they want to convince you to sell it traditionally, right? Because they don't want you to do the cash offer because they want a listing. Or you got the cash offer people that are like, oh, no, you don't want to list it. Like we're a conduit for either. Like we will give you your options. We will say, hey, look, you're going to leave some money on the table. We'll do this, but we want you to know, like, if you went this path, you might put more money in your pocket. And there are customers that just choose to forego that. They want the convenience. They would rather have a really quick, we've done closings in a matter of week. We've let people stay. We've let people post-occupy. Those are things we can do creatively that some of the bigger funds won't do. They have very strict criteria where it's this, and this. We can be a little bit more, make decisions from a local level and say, you know what? Yeah, you can stay there for an extra month. We've got to draft an agreement, but, we maybe got to do a holdback or something. Or we can close really, really fast because, some emergency happened. So again, those are things where we can be, kind of flexible and nimble that other funds, aren't capable of keeping up with.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just giving people options, right? When they call us, they're used to calling a realtor and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go on the market. It's this percent and that's it. We can definitely do that. We can help you with that. We have different options of going on the market. We also have different options of getting local investors to work with you. So we really want to provide you a menu of different options to figure out what is the best direction for you, because we know everybody out there has a different goal in mind and different timelines. So we want to be able to adjust ourselves to that.
Yeah, and then giving you the options, right? Like, hey, look, here's the different paths you can go. And
right.
It's your choice in terms of, which of these paths that you choose to go.
Right.
So funny story, when we do this, we obviously have clients. I mean, we sell 3, 4, 5. I think we had a $6 million sale not long ago. We sell really high-end real estate. I have agents on our team that kind of focus on that specifically. And then, of course, we work with clients that are selling more inexpensive homes. I joke and call it wheel estate. We've bought the mobile homes. We've sold the mobile homes. But you had one recently in St. Pete I think we're actually going to list. We had originally looked at it potentially as a buy opportunity, but I think we're going to sell it traditionally. And we really do kind of see all shapes and sizes of homes, but this one has a stripper pole in it.
Hey, I mean, I'm no judgment on my part at all. I had a little twirl on it, so it was fun.
Yeah, how do you renovate that? No, but seriously, we have seen kind of the whole the spectrum over the years, and you obviously having been on the team for as long as you have. We see amazing, beautiful luxury real estate, celebrity-owned real estate. We've seen a lot of that. And then, of course, on the other end of our business, we see the stuff that just needs a massive amount of work. And if you're someone that does own something that needs a massive amount of work, we're not judging you. Like, look, like there's people that are like, oh, I spent 6 months not paying my bills because I was so frustrated to call anyone because my house is in such bad condition. Like, we're not judging you. Like, in all honesty, like, we're going to come out with a solution. We're going to help you. So if you're one of those people that has that home that needs a lot of work and you've fallen behind and maybe you've hit some financial roadblocks and maybe it needs some work and you've been embarrassed to have anyone come out, I promise you, we've seen it.
Oh, we've definitely seen it. And I can't tell you how many times we walk into a home to talk with, whether it's for listing or a cash offer, and they apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get to tidy up or something. We really see homes in every different condition.
We can look past it.
Correct. We're not there to judge you, but we definitely want to look at the homes that have, issues, roofs, ACs, plumbing issues. But at the same time, if you're someone who has a beautiful, gorgeous home and just time and you just want out and time is the most important. We've bought plenty of homes that really didn't need much work at all, but just wanted to, because we provided that option to
and
the
sometimes
sellers.
Unfortunately they need an out because they got bad advice or they had a bad agent that didn't market the house or overpriced it. I've seen that happen a lot recently where you've seen a home go on the market massively overpriced. Like they were from 3 or 4 years ago. And then by the time they finally do get to the right price, the problem is it's been on the market so long that every buyer looks at it and it's the scarlet letter. And now they've reached the end of their financial capabilities and they've got to do something because they spent too much time, too high of a price gambling with bad advice and bad marketing. And now they're stuck. And now it's like, look, I've got a great house. And it's really not the house that's the issue. It was the strategy. So the strategy was just bad. And so we bought some like that where it was just simply the price that we were buying it at really wasn't that much lower than their last listing price. The problem was they just ate up their reserves sitting on the market too long and not getting to the right price. So if that is you, if you do have a house that needs a lot of work or you just want out, if you want a cash offer, DuncanDuo.com. Again, that is DuncanDuo.com. Really easy website to use. You pop in your address. Your phone should be able to auto-populate most of the information. You can do it. Don't do it while driving. Pull off the side of the road. But very easy to do. You can do that again at DuncanDuo.com. And you may very well have a conversation with Ben, who will definitely take a look at your house. That's one thing we're going to talk about when we get back. Is that we actually go and physically look at the houses. And I think that's where there's a lot of bait and switch going on with the cash offer programs. People will say, oh, let me generate an automated offer for you. And I want to talk about that after a quick break. We'll be back on the other side here on WFLA News. Better?
Is that better?
So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan, the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty with Ben Turek for my real estate team. Ben and his wife, Jackie, have been, phenomenal agents on my team for a long time. And, we're talking a lot about cash offers today because it is something that has become very common. There's a lot of misconceptions. We talked in the first segment about how many people we can help and give them their options, and then how creative we can be and how we've bought homes that need massive amounts of work, through our fund and investment groups. And again, you can do that at DuncanDuo.com if you're interested in that. So, but I talked before the break about, specifically, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about before the break?
we were talking about people who give offers when they don't even come out.
Yeah. So the reality is so many of the cash offer programs will generate an automated offer for you. Because what they've basically determined, and I think it's society in general, is people want Amazon Prime for real estate.
Right.
They want to click a button and then have their house and then money show up in their account.
Too good to be true, or something that they're telling you, is even a way higher number than you ever anticipated. Stop, question it, just ask. And if you don't know, like Andrew said, just Google them, see what you can find on
and then
them.
call us for a second opinion. Hit us up at duncanduo.com. We'll look at your stuff. We'll look at it and say, hey, here's the advice we can give, or maybe you need to talk to an attorney, or here's the legit. We'll help you, right? We can give you a second opinion. I had Melissa Rodriguez with Citywide Home Mortgage on last week. She's our preferred mortgage lender. And it's interesting because I think this happens in the mortgage world too, where someone will say, "Oh, they're going to give me such and such rate," and then they look at the closing statement. They don't compare apples to oranges. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm getting 5% rate over here, but then you're paying 3 points." Like over here, so. I think the same thing happens with both wholesaling and flipping with a lot of customers is they see the top line number, but then they don't get the actual closing disclosure statement showing them what all the fees and costs are. So they're comparing apples to oranges. They're only looking at the top line number, not what you talked about before, the only number that matters, which is
what goes in your pocket.
What goes in your pocket. That's it. Or what goes out of your pocket in the mortgage world, right? So I think, again, the same thing happens in the mortgage world. The same thing happens in real estate and in flipping and wholesale and buying. Read and understand your contract.
Yeah, we actually just had something like this
Read
come
and
up
understand it.
For a client. We were trying to help them with a cash offer, trying to help them, and they ended up going with someone else. They called us, same thing. Hey, we sold our house. No need to worry. Well, I kept watching it, and guess what? 2 months later, that buyer came back and asked for a $48,000 reduction in price on a $300,000 home. That's a pretty big
16%.
That's a huge jump.
That's enormous.
Obviously, that client was frustrated, upset. Won't even repeat any of the words. I don't even think I can repeat the words in that conversation.
FCC.
But we're now working with that client to give them the right advice that they should have had months ago. And of course, I can understand they're frustrated. They've now paid a couple extra months of electric bill, of property taxes, of mortgage. For a house that's now vacant that they've already moved out of.
Yeah.
So
it's sad, but you see it a lot. You see people get taken advantage of, and again, we're trying to be transparent with them and say, hey, look, here's our upfront cut to the chase. And our upfront cut to the chase sometimes isn't as sexy as the lie that you're being told or how you're going to be duped later on. And so, but that's the way that we operate. That's how we differentiate. It's more old school. So if you're listening to this and you like old school, it really is. But the reality is I think it's a better way to do it. And it's more, personal connection. You're going to be, you're going to have a human that you're going to deal with. You're going to have somebody walk through your house, like all the other stuff. And again, could people buy homes and flip homes, without seeing them, without doing all that stuff? Yes, they're going to miss a lot. And it's really, really challenging in a market like today. Like, were there some times too good to be true real estate deals? Yeah, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, I posted a meme on my Facebook, and it was a picture of The Rock. If you've seen The Rock at the Venice, The Rock has lost a bunch of weight. He's still huge though. Like, people don't understand. Like, even him looking skinny, the dude would still break me, right? But I made a joke, and it was like, oh, here's The Rock from 2020, realtors in 2021, and realtors in 2025, and it's true. Back then, there was just the money was flowing, the market was hotter. We didn't have a storm that we had dealt with, right? So you could miss. Someone could do that and miss on a house, and appreciation would erase their error. When prices aren't appreciating, like most neighborhoods today, guess what? You can't miss. You can't do that because then it's going to be worth less. So the idea that someone's going to buy your home for some fantasy land, not reality price, doesn't exist in this market.
Definitely not. And we can see people already in this market. And I think a lot of the times when we go out, a huge part of what we do is just educating the client about what's happening, not just in the real estate market in whole around Tampa Bay, but also specifically to their specific neighborhood.
Right.
This is what's going on. These are how many homes are selling. This is how long it's taking to sell. And if we do a cash offer for an investment, it's very transparent, just showing you, hey, this is where it is. This is what we see. And most people understand that. If you go into a house and they know their roof is leaking and they know the kitchen's shot, most people understand that you're going to have to replace that. But it's still about educating, and we're there to answer all your questions.
And I think it's also relative to people sometimes don't take this into consideration. And if you listen to this and you're like, you know what, I am one of those people who wants a cash offer. Again, hit us up at duncanduo.com. Again, it's duncanduo.com. But I think one thing that people don't realize is it's really all relative. If they're going to sell and buy, maybe they don't get as much for the sale. But the market is challenging in a lot of places of the country. No matter where you're moving to, you may be able to make some of that up on the buy because you can negotiate a little bit more aggressively today than you could have 5 years ago because the market isn't as hot, right? It is more in favor of the buyer. It does take longer to sell. It does sell for less list to sell price ratio than it did. So sometimes people can't get past that. They get attached to some number on their house. You know, I mean, how many times have you heard that? Like, my house for 450. Well, I need to wait till it's 500.
Right. By the time they wait till it's 500, the house they want to move into is house 700.
Right. Exactly. It's like they lost money because they don't understand that. So it's really all relative. If you don't make what you want out of your sale, the listing or the sell to us in a cash offer scenario, you can make some of that up in the buy.
Agreed, 100%.
You know, but people don't. It's
all about math, right? It's just understanding the numbers, and even if you're not investing in real estate yourself, and you just want to sell your home that you've lived in for a while, and now you want to buy something new, yeah, you might not get that number, but you're going to get a better deal and better opportunities when you go to buy. And I think in this market, you will definitely make it up.
Yeah, 1,000%. Well, we're going to continue this conversation with our last segment. When we aren't on air, make sure to follow us at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook. You can follow me personally, Andrew Duncan, on Facebook, The Andrew Duncan on Instagram. You can see Ben on a stripper pole on my Facebook page. Ben was having a hoot. We put a house on the market that has that, and you know what? I think it'll sell. I think it'll get some attention. I think there will be someone that buys that. There's a lot of bachelors in Tampa, so
it's a great house. I can think of a lot of fun things.
I can think of a lot of fun things. All right, we'll be back. Wrap up our last segment after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Andrew Duncan with the Duncan Duo team at LPT Realty. Ben Turek on my real estate team for more than a decade now. Him and his wife been top agents with me for a long time, do an incredible job for their clients. If you're thinking about using our company, I would strongly recommend them. They are amazing agents, both of them. And so, Ben, you guys have built like a nice little rental portfolio. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and the pros and cons of being a landlord. I've been there. I've owned a lot of rentals before. I don't own many now, but I've done it. And it can be very financially advantageous. There's a lot of financial benefits, but there's also some obstacles with it too. And I think one of the ways that people in the real estate business and then people in general can build wealth that is pretty safe is through the rental property acquisition phase. They buy through markets, they rent them, they grow them, they depreciate them, they get a lot of write-offs, and then of course someone else is paying off your debt. So anyone out there that's listening, maybe what are some pros and cons of being a landlord, or what advice would you give people? Maybe someone that's not been a landlord yet and is thinking about being a landlord.
I mean, look, there's no secret that I'm definitely I have a lot of rentals. My wife and I have bought them well over a decade now. And I love it. I'm a firm believer that I think this is a great way for the average person to create wealth. But the biggest misconception is this is a get rich slow scheme.
It is get rich. Yeah.
It is not something that you're going to buy a rental and start making, quit your day job. Correct.
It is get rich slow.
So it does take time. A lot of times people don't understand the math behind it. So I would say, really just understanding the math, the tax benefits for your situation. There's a lot of things that you can't really talk about that you're not thinking about. We just think it costs me this, I make this much every month. It's the intangibles, the appreciation, the depreciation, for your taxes, writing off if you have an interest expense for your loan. There's a lot of great things. But one of the biggest cons that I tell people all the time that think it's just mailbox money and I won't have to do anything.
It is not.
No, that AC,
that
AC never breaks at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. It breaks Friday night right before you're about to go on vacation. Right? The plumbing the toilet backs up on Super Bowl Sunday. Those are the calls that you're
They have their whole family in town. They have a family reunion and the stuff stops working.
The AC breaks, the roof starts leaking. That's always when it's going to happen. So you've just got to understand. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, I'll just hire a management company. Well,
that's going to eat your profits.
It does eat your profits. And that management company's still going to want to know before they send someone out, on Super Bowl Sunday to unclog a toilet or, fix that AC. So you're still there. You're not giving away all that responsibility. If you've got, if you really want to build wealth over a long time, I think it's great. But not every property is a great rental.
No, and that's the point I want to make in our last few minutes here. I think there's a lot of customers out there that have their primary homes that they maybe can't get the number that they want, and they're going to turn them into rentals. And they're going to lose money every month because their mortgage maybe is too high. Now, look, if you bought a house and the mortgage rate is in the 3s and 4s from back a few years ago, that's probably a house you can make some money on, right? But a lot of people will say things like, well, I'm just going to turn it into a rental and lose money on it, smaller amounts of money until the price goes up. The problem with that is, one, if you really want a good rental property, buy another property, right? It's a bad rental property. It doesn't make money. You can sell that, take your loss, and then go in debt yourself on something, again, assuming you've got a mortgage rate above 6, those are things right now. It's hard to turn those into rentals and cover the costs. So I think it's a mistake for a lot of people right now that are saying, oh, I can't sell my house, I'm just going to rent it out, versus just selling it and taking the hit. Because you're just going to keep bleeding money and you're not factoring in all the risks. The roof goes bad, the plumbing leaks, a storm hits. Now you forgot to update your insurance to a rental policy instead of a homeowner policy. I'm not a big proponent of renting out moving out of your primary residence and renting it because you've got an emotional attachment. I'm a proponent of sell that and then go buy better rental property.
Yeah, and that's the other thing to remember. A lot of times, when we live in that home, we're just connected to it, right? We are emotionally invested. I've never met a tenant who treats it the same way as you do.
It's going to be discouraging.
And in your example, let's say you're looking, I'll only lose $200-300 a month. I'll wait for a year or two and ride out.
Price is going to go down more.
Not only that, but the problem is that once they move out, now you've got to repaint the house. You got to change the carpet.
10 grand easy. Everything's 10 grand today.
At least 10
like literally
grand.
Everything's 10 grand.
So now you've lost money for the last year or two every month on your mortgage because you're trying to hold on to it. Now they move out and you want to sell it. The price is probably lower, and now you've got to go back, put at least 10 grand to get it cleaned up, ready to go.
If you can sell it and get out and pay your loss, get out, because rental properties only make sense if they're positive cash flow. Period, in my opinion. If you're negative cash flow because you want to get the number up to a certain number so you can net out or whatever, it's a gamble because you're assuming the prices are going to go up. And look, they have for a really long time, but for the last few years, they haven't, right? And and again, insurance, I see, we had multiple people call us last year during the storms and their insurance declined them because they'd moved out, turned their properties into rentals, and then didn't update their policy. They didn't have a rental policy anymore. They didn't have coverage for that stuff, and they ate money. People that aren't they just don't know the difference. So I think most people if their home isn't going to be positive cash flow, they should, and they can write a check to get out of it if they're negative, or maybe they don't make as much as they want. So go buy better rental property. Get rid of that one. It's not a good property. Like you buy rental property to make positive cash flow.
Right.
Like the appreciation and all those things are bonuses. Those are gravy. But if you can't make positive cash flow, get out.
Correct.
Don't turn your primary into a rental. You're making a big mistake. There are so much risk that you're taking on. There's going to be repairs and maintenance and all these things. You're going to lose money every month. Like, I just don't, I really don't understand it, especially when the math doesn't show you that there's a path to appreciation. Now, look, if you're negative cash flow and the market's appreciating 27% a year like it was in 20 and 21, okay, maybe then it can. But right now, that's not the case. That's not going to be the case for a long time. So anyway, that's been great having you on, Ben. We're going to do it some more. If you want to talk to Ben, hit up DuncanDuo.com. They'll come out, give you a cash offer for your house, or tell you, you know what, maybe the cash offer isn't right for you. We should look at a traditional listing. You can do that at DuncanDuo.com, and have an awesome rest of your weekend, Tampa Bay.